Hello and welcome back to the 6th Street Underground, a Zenless Zone Zero fan cast discussing all things ZZZ. As always, I'm your host, Eric, and I'm joined by my ever wonderful co-host, Brian. And Brian, today is a very, very special day.
The lore! Bring me the lore!
No one's been asking for it, and we're doing it anyways. We're going to talk about all the lore that we can. Well, no, not really, because that would be like 8 episodes long, but
we are focusing entirely on Bang Boos.
It's all Bang Boo lore all the time. And
Bang
how
lore.
secretly...
Nope,
that's not it.
That's a different
thing. We've reached the conclusion of the first arc of ZZZ. The I want to call it acts, because an act is an easy way to say it. The Act 1 of ZZ has come to conclusion with the culmination happening in 1.4 with Chapter 5 and all of our wonderful things with the new queen around town, Miyabi, and her Handses. So what we thought we might do, because it's a great time to do this, is kind of look at what we know so far, talk about how we got from this prologue where we didn't know what was going on to like what we saw happen in 1.4.
What did we see in 1.4?
And then we might also highlight some of the things like just like world building that we haven't been able to touch on yet. I don't know about you, Brian, but when I sat down to start preparing for this episode and started looking back over and rewatching videos and touching back on some of the first like the prologue and the early chapter things, there was a lot of stuff that I either forgot or did not stand out to me the first time through.
Yes, those are called foreshadows.
The whole thing is heavily foreshadowed, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, it's really well done. You go back and you can see at least the first act was wholly thought of, and it wasn't just like thrown together every time they had plans, they had foreshadow. It's tying together. It's almost as if they hired writers and then they edited it and then they posted it.
They had a roadmap before they started, and it shows. I want to dive into it, but first we have to go ahead and give a quick spoiler warning. We're going to spoil everything. So if you have not played through the end of Chapter 5, if you've not finished the current narrative stuff for ZZZ, current as of our recording time or the release time, which would be the 9th of January, you may want to pause it and come back when you finish that. Otherwise, spoilers
But also, what is you
incoming.
doing? It's been like a month.
Come on. I mean, I understand that it was holidays, but...
If anything, that gave you more time to do it.
There is
Ignore your family.
Yeah.
Ignore family. Embrace Bang Boo.
Eschew family. Embrace Miyabi. Just play it. It's very good. So we've had our spoiler alert. So Bringer, huh?
Bringer. Who knew that a man whose name was Bringer would turn out to be a bad guy and would bring her about some chaos? So what we were talking about this before we started recording. What we think might be fun is like, let's talk about like where it ends up and then walk us through how we got there. Right. So as of the current, like the big culmination here is Bringer injects himself with a gold fluid and turns himself into Super Bringer.
Super Bringer. He becomes, not only, he does it twice because he becomes a sacrifice and then we beat him. And then Sarah snipes him with another shot and he becomes a sacrifice, but bigger.
Double sacrifice. What does it
sacrifice. But to get there, we kind of have to explore like how we got to this point. So we've got the sacrifice. We've got a lot of different mysterious things going on. We've got Sarah floating around. The first thing that I wanted to kind of bring to our conversation here is Fairy. Because Fairy is the beginning.
She is one of 4 AIs that are hinted at.
Yes. So one of the things, if you haven't watched it yet, before ZZZ came out, there was a video called Where the Miracle Began. And Where the Miracle Began does this thing that Hoyo loves to do, which is release a video that seems really cool and is clearly full of lore. And when it came out 6 months ago, we were going, I don't know what any of this means.
This means nothing to me.
Cool. That sounds neat. In that video, so a lot of what we're going to talk about, and if we're saying things that you're like, I've played all of ZZZ and I don't know what you guys are talking about, some of the stuff we're going to talk about did come from that video as well. there are 4 AIs. We've got, do you remember them, Brian?
There was Fairy. Got it.
Yep.
Nailed it. Yokai.
Got it. Okay.
Genie.
Yep.
And then the last one was just called Ghost, right?
It's just Ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just Ghost. So those are the 4. In this trailer, like, we kind of got a hint. I think we got a hint at what each of them can do. Because they haven't really said it for sure, but in this video, they very clearly make sure, like, to mention each one and have them do a different thing. So Fairy is used to, like, rapidly search through and comb through information and generate and like synthesize everything, which we know from playing the prologue. That's what Fairy does. She can do for the proxies something that everyone else wishes they could do, which is get real-time data about a holo without having a carrot for the holo.
Yeah, she can process as the data comes in instead of taking the days or weeks or that some people have to comb through the data and compile it.
Yeah, or pull from, what is it called? The all the carrots are derived from like a master resource called the Rosetta data.
Yeah.
So she's like a pocket Rosetta data, which is incredibly powerful. It's really fortuitous that we got her to do our things.
Almost, some would say, a little too convenient.
Really convenient, huh? There was Ghost, who's used to hack directly into the depths of the internet. Yokai is used to corrupt the database's firewall. And then Jenny was used to upload a packet of information to the deep database. We have no idea what was in that packet, but like they all are receiving these kind of different things. One thing I did want to point out before we move on, and this is probably a tangent that, fine, whatever. When Yokai corrupts the database firewall so they can get access, in that video, there's a visual and there's a countdown of 2 holos, and the moment they touch is when they're able to corrupt the firewall and gain access. And so, like, I don't know what I want to do with that yet, but I think there's like a really kind of digital aspect to the way the holos work, and like them touching.
No touch.
No touchy. It's bad when they touch.
As they have mentioned, and again they reiterated in the newest what's the newest not the Withering Domain.
Yes.
But either way, whatever it's called, they mention how what happens is when you have multiple, you'll have 2 or more small holos touch, they will combine and create bigger ones. And so that's where you get the different overlords. You have Nineveh in the Withering Domain. You know, W's. Yes. What are they even for? And then you have Puppeteer, which is the second living overlord that they have introduced.
For sure. So
or
like
Geppetto, yes.
Geppetto, which Puppeteer.
But so that could be a hint that because as you said, in the end of The Miracle Began, they mentioned creating New Eridu, which, as we know, already exists as a city, unless the person masterminding this doesn't consider New Eridu in its proper form. Right. It could be a hint that they or someone they are involved with created the Hollow Zero incident, and now they're going to create a second one in New Eridu, and then combine Eridu and New Eridu into Super Eridu.
Something's going to happen.
Also, I like that the 4 AIs, with Ghost being the biggest stretch, are all named after deities that are known for being tricksy.
Yeah,
Genies,
like
yokais, fairies all famously play tricks and may offer you something that you want, but you're actually not getting it in the form you want, or it's ultimately serving their goals. So that could be something that turns around to bite us, relying so heavily on fairy.
And I think also, like in a similar pathway, all 4 are related in different mythos with death. Ghost being the most obvious one, but like they're all like in these purgatorial spaces in different mythologies, and so like that like trickster persona, but also like that death persona is hinting that we already know that they're probably problematic. But yeah, I think I'm with you. Like, I love having fairy. It's gonna bite us in the tuchus at some point, I think.
But anyway, that's
point,
enough about the pre lore.
we'll bounce back and forth because there are other things I want to highlight. During the prologue, we get Fairy. There's this mystery safe that they're chasing after. I'm not going to get into the weeds on like the Red Fang gang versus like all the other stuff that's going on. We get some
right now we
about,
don't know how much of those matter versus they're just because you have to have a name for a gang. Because it's sort of like Jane takes down a gang, and as far as I know, it's not been relevant since. It was just they were a major gang. They came out and said, "Oh, this is a major gang. They're being a problem."
It was
all right. I took them down.
Something gang, Mountain Lion gang.
Yeah, the Mountain Lion gang.
Yeah, a lot of like I mean, this is kind of a staple for the storytelling structures. Oftentimes, the big lore bombs are at the very beginning or very end of the chapter. At the end of prologue, when we're activating Fairy, like in my memory, Fairy is this sarcastic, cheeky AI that we've been hanging out with. I forgot that the very first thing we do is she like forces us to sign a user agreement without us really knowing what we're signing, and then says, which is great.
Well, I was gonna say, and that goes back to fairy mythology of you having to make an agreement with them that you very rarely know exactly what you're getting.
Yes. And then one of the things I wrote down that she says is, together we will make new Eridu, and then it's cut off, right? So we're going like, okay, cool, it's going to make a new Eridu. Good. But the next thing we see is a mystery voice from outside of New Eridu refers to Fairy waking up as a key.
Yeah.
Right? So like when we have 4 keys, presumably in future arcs, new keys will wake up, and we'll see what it is they're trying to unlock in Eridu.
Well, and there's a chance that one of the keys is also already woken up. Because there's multiple times where a hacker causes major damage and does stuff that normal hackers wouldn't be able to do, almost as if maybe they are being lent a AI that is designed solely to hack and could even beat something like Fairy because it excels at where Fairy does not.
Do you think are you talking about like white noise?
Yeah, well, it could either be white noise, but you also have
Nullface was the group or was the person or group that hacked during
but and I mean, it could be just a component of the world where everyone's using all this internet, and obviously a hack is a common attack. But there's a lot of times where these hacker groups are doing stuff that are real, like Nullface being able to get into the HIA's database and doing something so crazy as almost deleting the personalities and the brains of Hand. Seems like something that it seems a little out of the depth of a normal hacker group, even if they're master hackers, quote unquote.
Yeah. So it's like I'm jumping around a little bit, but like this is really interesting to me because I was thinking about this earlier today when I was taking down notes. It said that Nullface was used to get like all the Hand stuff around. My mind's gone blank. What's her name? Yanagi. All Yanagi's story. Nullface was hired to do that and supported by White Noise as the hacker group.
Like I said, you said, White Noise is what set Phaethon on their path, which led to them needing Fairy.
Yes, and so what is interesting to me is like one, I'm pretty down with the idea that like White Noise has, probably considering the level of power, and if we know anything about the other ones, like White Noise has yokai is my guess. But we know that White Noise is working or is backing and supported by the same secret organization that like is manipulating or Sarah and Bringer are working for. But like when White Noise hacks Phaethon to get their Phaethon account, there's no hacking that occurs. It is pure extortion. Like, yeah, it is not like we have it. It's like, hey, you're going to die if you don't give me this. Give me this. Okay, now you can open what's in the box. And so like, I wonder how much of White Noise is being like, we're expert hackers and we have this thing, and how much it was just like, we know how to
just literally just putting guns to people's head.
Yeah.
And just be like, this is a form of hacking.
These guys might be better hackers than us. Either way, we get from the beat one, we've got like White Noise involved and these other people that will come back more later, and like White Noise through the actions of Nullface become really important by the time we get to chapter 5. But I didn't catch it the first time through. Like, it's just there. It moves us into the first chapter, though, where we have the cunning hares. Excuse me. Try that again. It moves us into chapter 1, where not only do we have the cunning hares doing their things, we get hints at the depths of what the siblings are going for. I'm going to use the word the siblings to describe our protagonists and their brother
Belle
or sister.
and assistant manager.
Belle and assistant manager. But people play both ways. We get they're talking about like our teacher's lifelong dream just might. So we got hints at their teacher, which we now know who that is.
Yes.
Arna. Arna, is that right?
Carol Arna.
All right, I thought so. But we also get the Vision Company led by Perlman and his secretary, a lady in red, who we now know is
Sarah.
Which
I wonder if they just picked that name, or if it's going to be a reference to maybe Seraphim, and she's in red, so she's a fallen angel, or there might be some other folklore creature with a Sarah in their title.
Probably, yeah.
But
it wouldn't surprise me. There's a lot of Roman symbolism and nomenclature used throughout everything. It would be spelled different than it is in the game, but like I could very much see her name having further significance. We knew the first time she showed up that she was going to be more than just like a secretary.
She was too cool to be just a secretary.
The number of online posts of people like, so when do we get to play as her? Was like, all right, they've clearly like people know what they want. But this is the first time we start seeing that, like, from now with the power of hindsight, the power of hindsight, that Bringer was already pulling some strings.
Yes.
Because like there's this whole demolition train that they're moving, but when they get in the train's full of people who clearly aren't PubSec, but they're dressed in PubSec. And they're totally ready to kill some people. And like now we know that Bringer's the one who got them the uniforms and helped them like be in the right place and all of that.
Yes, that is something that they consistently put through all of the chapters. Is basically every time something happens, Sarah contacts Bringer, which you probably don't recognize it the first time through because especially you have someone gave the uniforms, and then you have there's a mole somewhere in PubSec, which you kind of like obviously because they gave away the route that the sacrifice remains were being passed along. But then you have when Perlman blackmails them, you have she contacts Perlman, which if you recognize his voice, you're like, oh okay, that eliminates all doubt. But he didn't have much speaking role, so you kind of have to have it pointed out by someone unless you got a really good ear. And then obviously so like it's one of those where then as you look at it and you're like, oh okay, yeah, like, and then of course it culminates with after chapter 3 where they have the audio file of Bringer killing Kaleda's dad,
killing Kors, right? Like at first when I was playing through it, I pitched Bringer in my head. He felt like Captain Quark from the Ratchet and Clank games, if you've played those.
I have not.
Like the big, brazen, like barrel-chested moron.
Yeah.
Who like clearly serves his purpose, but his purpose is just to be like, we're great, everything's wonderful, I'm a superhero, blah, blah, blah. And then everyone else behind the scenes gets things done, which is kind of Bringer, but I didn't necessarily tag him, at least at first, as like doing that for the bad guys.
Yeah, I thought he was fully in the maybe like incompetent but brash, not the evil, not the wholesale evil.
Incompetent enough that if there was corruption in PubSec, he'd have no idea, and if he said no, everything's great, he would believe it. Right?
Yeah, that's also how I clocked him too.
Which I think, like, now that we've finished it, like this whole first chapter or the first arc is the Bringer arc. And I wonder if like subsequent arcs are going to focus on other people from this shadowy organization that I'm going to call the Vision organization because it's easiest.
I'm assuming the way they're going to do it is kind of the classic way of they will find puppets to do the dirty work, especially if, it's the kind of the classic trope of like, you don't inject yourself with the miracle serum, you get your your guy to do it
somebody
because
else.
you know what it actually does to you and you don't want that to happen to you. So, I mean, maybe if there's like a final act of like the first huge overarch, maybe Sarah or someone else who's like really big takes the serum.
Yeah.
But I would not be surprised if we see more of this, like wherever they go to next, you have a new person who is working with, the shadow organization. And
yeah, they'll reveal somebody new. I'm hopeful that like it's not always just like who's going to inject serum next. Because I feel like that could get a little boring, but like that's gonna definitely like come into play, right? It also like when I was first playing through this, when we figured out that like okay, clearly Sarah's manipulating things, and like they've got this plan to blow up this train and kill a whole bunch of people, presumably just to save money, which is what like the second layer behind what was told to the public was. I'm still going like, why are they cool with killing? Like, what do they gain from killing so many people?
Yeah, I like how it's set up so far is that every time there's they have contingencies for if they get found out. So like you said, with the first thing, their whole goal was to get to the sacrifice. And they're like, oh yeah, we'll have the Vision Corporation. They're going to do it and they're going to kill everyone. And that way Vision Corporation can take the fall as just an evil, greedy corporation who was like, it costs too much to rescue people, we'll just kill them off. But then really there was like an actual reason. It wasn't just to save money. And kind of the same with Bringer, where it's, like, oh, he just wanted power, but there's obviously more to their goal than just Bringer having, like, it's very obvious. They get these patsies, they get Perlman, they get Bringer. They have people that they can easily manipulate and throw away at a moment's notice.
For sure. I wonder if like the killing of so many people would also feed into their like this whole like sacrifice mythos, but also like one of the things that made the bringer sacrifice so powerful was they had all the data about Talus from when they managed to take Miyabi's sword for a while.
Yeah.
And so like the killing of so many people, like I wonder if like that would also feed into creating really powerful ethereals, and then like those powerful ethereals then inform more powerful sacrifices, right? Which are these weird, they're not technically an ethereal and they're also not technically human. Because when they analyze the first sacrifice they find in the monument, like the big deal is that there's human DNA in that sacrifice. But when a human becomes an ethereal in the scare quotes traditional sense, there's no human DNA remaining. They completely become something new.
Yeah.
And like, so they become an ethereal. So like, there's clearly there's so far, and I don't know if they're trying to mislead us or if this is what they're working towards, is this kind of idea of like the next stage of human ascension is this hybridization of human and ethereal. Like, is that the evolutionary thing? That would tie into like their stuff about like, may the creator refine him, is what Sarah says when she says that Bringer's gone, when she reports that Bringer's gone. And the last thing Bringer says is, creator, refine me. And so I do wonder, like, is that what they're building towards, or is it something more? And like, that's either just a part of the process, or it's Sarah playing into what the people she's reporting to would believe, and she's actually got her own scheme. You know what I mean? Or did I go off on like a wild tangent?
It's too early to really tell.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. I mean,
I mean,
that's why it's the podcast. Yeah.
I mean, I hadn't really thought about that, like that was an end goal, or that may, and because I mean that's also where you run into, like, when you have a schemes within scheme storyline, eventually you do get to the bottom of a scheme. You can't just have infinite nesting dolls of schemes where everyone has, then you end up like a shonen anime where you're just like, but this scheme actually, even though it was labeled final scheme number 7, it's actually only final scheme number 7-1 part 3.
The scheme of the art instead of like the full scheme.
But I mean, I could definitely see it. And so especially, I've kind of changed, with going back and reading all the lore, is I wonder if like Geppetto and Nineveh, if they might not be proto versions of these sacrifices. Like,
yeah.
Because I know originally I was like, oh, maybe Nineveh is actually Carol Arna and she got etherealized. But now I'm wondering, what if maybe that it may or may not be them, but like, what if those are ethereals but humans? They have a level of consciousness, which is shown, and because they very heavily talk about that in the Geppetto story. They're like, these there's plans. They're not just acting on pure instinct. And they're like, is that a Geppetto thing, or are these just higher level ethereals that retain some level of actual consciousness, and that is part of their goal of like you said, they're refining the serum. So it's, because I'm assuming, like all of them, maybe those were the few successes of the original. Maybe that is what led to the Hollow Zero eruption that set everything in motion. Is like the first time like they really achieve something, and that's why they're refining it in New Eridu, and then they're going to, maybe they're like, they do we'll all recreate all of mankind in this new perfect form,
or refine. Like, well, I wonder,
or if it's just like my chosen one, and everyone else again is a sacrifice of, how many people are you willing to sacrifice to create your perfect version of existence?
For sure. And you saying that made me wonder, like, so Nineveh is in Hollow Zero. Like, that's where those things take place. And that's why the siblings were so excited the first time we encountered Nineveh, was like, their whole goal is to get more and more info about Hollow Zero so they can make it back to the remains of the Helios Academy and prove that Carol Arna did not, in fact, destroy all of Eridu. I wonder if if Nineveh is actually a creation or a proto-creation, like you were saying, of some of the stuff the Helios Academy was doing before the Hollow Zero explosion.
And then to put a pin right there,
yes.
What if the reason that the twins or the siblings are so sure that Carol Arna isn't involved in ethereal is because she was successful in her attempts when whatever she did to the twins, because at the end we see them, their eyes glow, and they destroy Bringer.
And I think the eye glow is, like, if I remember correctly, like their implants, EOS, and like all of their other technology was originally Carol Arna's.
Yeah, because
she gifted that to them.
And I don't remember if they really mentioned them having implants before chapter 4 or 5.
I do remember a line of them being like, my implants malfunction.
Yeah. And then,
but that was,
because I remember they say that. And then I could also see that being why they have such poor etheric resistance, is because they are basically completely incompatible with the ethereal life form with whatever Carol Arna did.
Yeah. And it also, like, that would sync up with, like, when Eos first encounters the sacrifice that was inside of the monument, it messes with their implant.
Yeah.
Like, it fizzes them out for a little bit, and they catch this, like, weird vision. We could keep doing this all day.
We could.
I think, hey, we're on to something.
I mean, it was super, super subtle, where they looked at each other and said, let's do this. Essentially, their eyes glowed, and then an ethereal just got an ascended ethereal, or whatever you want to call these sacrifices.
It exploded themselves and did nothing to them. Like, they were completely untouched by it.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to say about that part before we move forward, sorry, you go ahead.
I was going to say, and if I remember correctly, Bringer reacted to them doing that, and he was like, I don't remember exactly what he said, but he made some comment like, not complete surprise. Like, he was like, because it was like, that was your plan all along, or something.
It was something like, keep hiding then.
Yeah. It was something where, like, clearly the Shadow Organization knows about them. Maybe not them specifically, but knows about that power.
Yes. And the last thing I wanted to say was, like, they mentioned that the giant white hands that became, like, Bringer's whole ascended sacrifice form, those were the same white hands that took away Carol Arna back during the Hollow Zero explosion.
Yes.
So, like, one that says Carol Arna took away does not mean kill. So one, Arna could be somewhere.
Perhaps being kept safe by Professor RK.
By RK. We can talk about all of those wonderful people. But like, and it was all connected. Like, I know we've some other loose ends to tie in. It's a throwaway line, but we're told that Victoria Housekeeping, the client that they're working for when they're taking care of the twin, was also researching a sacrifice.
Yes.
So like they were involved in this whole piecing together. I had not realized when we played through the Yanagi chapter, the Yanagi side story, that like it was all one to just like get as much information as they can and about Miyabi's sword and everything, but it also gave them the thumbprint so they could then access it later. To
they had a perfect
things.
Thumbprint, and and to talk a little bit more about that Victoria Housekeeping, it is very much so. Obviously, at the end of chapter 3, where they first dropped that, where they're like, "Oh, what does the client say?" Because obviously they're also hunting the sacrifice, and they said they're allies for now, and so obviously this is a third faction because they're not working. There was some thought that maybe, they're working with the Shadow faction and that they're going to but the fact that they worked with Phaethon to stop Bringer at that point seems very much like they are not aligned wholly with either of them. And obviously we don't know what their goals are at all.
So it's a matter of like how many people actually know about this thing and why. And like, to what end, right?
Yes.
There was one trapped inside this giant monument, and there's people working towards it. There's this whole clandestine organization trying to enact their vision. Are they going to be the big bad, or are they like religious extremists?
Are these the students of whoever started the Sacrifice Project, and they're all fighting amongst themselves, trying to be the first to regather their master's legacy, or is it the original guy and he just had a setback and now he's trying to reclaim it? There's a lot of interesting ways they could take this story.
There is. And at the end of the next arc, we'll look back at this episode and go, wow, we knew nothing. And boy, were we wrong.
Yes, I am
wrong.
hopeful that we are right, but I fully expect to be incredibly wrong.
So, yeah. One of the things I wanted to do, unless there's something else you want to talk about in terms of like how the narrative built up to where we ended up. So I feel like we jumped around a little bit, but I feel like we've covered a lot of how that. I mean, one, Perlman became way more important than we thought he would be.
Yes.
And way more. I don't want to say competent, but like sort of competent, in that like he did try to leverage himself against Sarah, and he did like, hey, here's the evidence I have that could bring them down. It's in this place, and go get it. And like, I appreciate Perlman more as a character now than I thought I would.
He's not one-dimensional.
Well, he is one-dimensional, and he's very short.
That's not how dimensions work.
Guy. That's how dimensions work.
You can't just say something's one-dimensional because it's short.
He's one-dimensional. He's just an x-axis.
But yeah, I also enjoy the idea that he's basically like a mirror, or like a speed bag or something, where the more you hit him, the more he becomes competent. Because he was relatively incompetent in the beginning. He was like, yeah, whatever, I'll just do whatever you say.
He's a patsy. Yeah.
And because he even talks about that, like when they first came to him, they made him eat in the kitchen with everyone else, and he was like, I'm the CEO. But then by the end, he is orchestrating, or at least not orchestrating, but like participating and actually like contributing to the interruption of their plans. He's from a guy who got kicked out of his own office to actively stopping their current plan. He's
Goku. He's little shrimp boat CEO Goku. The more he gets hit, the stronger he gets, the more useful he is. I mean, and like he's more and more useful, but it is always purely to save his own skin.
Oh yes,
like,
no,
they've stayed very true to him.
If to go back to your beleaguered DBZ reference, he's more a Yajirobe, who
I don't know enough about DBZ.
He's basically a Yajirobe, where he's like always kind of presented as incompetent, but just competent enough to do what he needs to do to keep surviving.
Okay.
So like he's never like the guy, but there's enough times where he's like enough of the he tips the scales just enough by existing that they're like,
okay,
I guess we're gonna keep him around. Like he's kind of annoying, kind of a dick, but like remember that one time he like did something that actually really helped us? I guess we can't get rid of him.
He knows enough we can't get rid of him. So I guess he's our pet. He's our Smeagol.
Just leave him with Bernice.
So one of the things that like I thought was interesting, and this is not subtle highlighted, is how much the ZZZ team is leaning into Roman mythology. And just like early civilizations and things, right? So like the Hollow Zero is the oldest hollow. It spawned 6 flanking hollows. Those hollows are the Cretan Hollow, which would be a reference to Crete in Greece. The Lemnian Hollow, which is a reference to Lemnos, an island, Greece. It's also where the Belly Twin is. And the other ones, they're a little bit more tricky. There's Hawara, which is an archaeological dig site in Egypt, and there's a pyramid located there. So again, historical significance. Persanus, which could be a reference to Lars Persana, an Etruscan king who warred against Rome. And then the other ones get a little bit hairier because there's and maybe somebody who's listening who knows more than me can help. Like there's Solove Hollow, which I couldn't find a single thing about it. And then the Papago Hollow, which is the Esperanto word for parrot, which I don't think is necessarily a Roman
pirate themed chapter. I'm here for it.
Chapter.
And of
that's
course,
where the Outer Ring one is.
Yeah, and then you also have, of course, Eridu, which is like considered like one of the first cities in human existence back in ancient Sumeria. So it being the first, aka biggest originating point, is kind of a very obvious hint at, which could also go back to the whole new phase of humanity. You have ethereal springing out of Eridu, again, the cradle from where humanity sprung from in real life.
And I think Eridu's doing 2 jobs. Because do you know the myth of Phaethon?
Yeah, he is the child of Helios. And let me read the rest of your notes you wrote for me.
He's the child of Helios. Some of this I don't have written down. He's the child of Helios. He's the most well-known child of Helios. And he dies. And the reason he dies is because he decides, I can do what my dad does, and tries to take the reins of the sun and fly the sun. And in doing so, he almost crushes the sun into the earth, which scorches the earth. And he takes the sun too far away from the earth, which freezes the earth. And he keeps doing that. And so to protect the earth, Helios is forced to strike down his own son. When Phaethon dies, he falls into the river Eridanus, which I think is important. So to save the world...
I get it, because arid anus.
Yep, you did it. Land it. There's the joke.
Dry butthole.
Dry buttholes.
That is gonna. If that is the culmination of the story, is just fairy saying those 2 words.
Do I have the audacity to make that the episode title? Is the real question.
Dry butthole.
It'll really determine our audience. But like that's really interesting because like Phaethon's everywhere, and like they come from the Helios Academy. That's not on accident. Like almost all of the different quarters of New Eridu are named after Roman gods as well, right? Everything so far has taken place in the Janus quarter, and he was a god of religion and myth. I think it was the one with the 2 faces, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and I think actually Janus, I don't think he has a Greek equivalent, which is not relevant to the ZZD discussion, but it is interesting to me. But we have the Pluto quarter. We know who Pluto is because it's Hades. Minerva quarter. So Pluto would be god of death, but also what else was Pluto the god of? Other cool things. Minerva's god of knowledge. It's Athena in Greek mythology. I'm skipping throne because it doesn't fit in. The Faunus quarter. Faunus was a god of fields, woodlands, and flocks, and then Vulcan is Hephaestus is crafts.
Who does to tie into throne?
Yeah.
I mean that fits in with yeah, I'm trying to think of who throne could possibly represent. I mean, Like I said,
The
you
closest
got
I got was Juno. Is
Zeus.
Zeus, but not Zeus. What's Roman Zeus? Jupiter. Is Jupiter's wife, is Juno.
Oh, okay.
Hera. Yeah, Juno is Hera. So like Juno's throne is often referenced. The throne quarter is the place with hand, but I wonder if like just because we don't have a full map of New Eridu, if the throne quarter is actually a smaller subset of some of these other quarters. Because like everything else has been very deliberate, and that feels very out of place. I even tried like looking for it with like an accent on the E and found like the Throne quarter, and I just couldn't find anything.
Thranon.
Like I was sitting there like poring over every minor Roman god. Like, okay, which one did we reference a chair in?
And then
it's got to be in here somewhere.
They basically just ran out of gods, and they're just like, what about like throne to represent where the king is?
That sounds pretty cool. So like my wondering is how much of the world building and lore pulling on Roman mythology and like these early civilizations, how much of that is rule of cool and how much of that has a deeper meaning for the narrative or the world building of the game? We can't answer that question right now.
No, we can't. Because I'm trying to think of like how the different factions that have shown up, or like the player factions, you got the Cunning Hares, Victoria Housekeeper, like if they could somehow make allusions to it, or if those are more, like if the overall is tied to ancient religion and ancient civilization, and then the player factions are just like, what if like maids but combat? And then they're like, what if biker gang?
Barring Helios Academy, which we don't have anything yet, but that one's obvious. Obel Squad is the only thing I can think of. Obel Squad's the squad that Soldier 11 belongs to, and they're like part of the like military. But if I remember correctly, an obel was a coin. From
I want to say that sounds like right, that it's a coin.
It's an ancient Greek coin, 1/6 the value of a drachma. Enjoy that. But I mean, there is a connection between coins and paying your way across the river Styx. And like with Obel Squad being kind of a kill force, right? Like there is some connection there with like the Obel and then paying the way to Charon. Or what is Charon in Roman? Do we know? I'll cut this out because I'm just interested. Hey Siri.
I was like, I actually don't know if they have a counterpart.
Is it Charon?
Is it just Karen in both?
You might, yeah. It is. It's just sometimes the O becomes a U.
They're just like, hey, like sometimes you just nailed it on the first go.
Like we'll keep this one. Like this one's ours too. You made this, we made this. So yeah, I mean, what we can agree on is it's really cool.
It is fun, and it's nice fun. When like it. I don't know which I would rather. Is if like they very deliberately reference all of this ancient literature and ancient culture, so if you know about it, you're like, oh, that's really cool. Or if it's entirely rule of cool, and so all of your theory crafting and like deep diving, they're just like, oh, no, we just really thought like basing stuff off of Roman names was fun.
Yeah, you gotta name them something.
Yeah, it's like you gotta come up with something.
We gotta do something here. There are some things that we haven't necessarily talked about.
We had a basic show map for this episode, and we burnt it in the
did not follow it at all. This is going to be a great experiment to see if this is even listenable.
People with ADHD will either love this and follow along perfectly, or they will hate it and
and very much not. So let's bring it back to something you said earlier. There is reason to believe that the instigating action from about a decade ago, the explosion, not explosion, but like the sudden swelling of Hollow Zero that ended up destroying old Eridu, the old capital, was not a random occurrence. There was someone kind of pulling the strings there, possibly to drive people across the chasm to what becomes New Eridu, or what became New Eridu. What set New Eridu apart is the Shiyu pillars. And they started using some of the Shiyu pillars in the old and original Eridu because they blew up 14th pillar to halt the advance of Hollow Zero. The whole reason that new Eridu can exist, like this final city of humanity can exist, is because the Shiyu pillars make energy from the hollows. And so like already, like just in terms of like from this macro structure, the symbiosis of ethereal matter, of etheric matter, and humanity is the only reason humanity is existing.
Yeah. Which, it's also one of those where, like, I wonder if at some point, like, is New Eridu actually the only civilization?
Well, like, this has been bothering me because it's, if we think of it as the only civilization, Port Elpis doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
because who are they shipping things to?
I think, and there also could be kind of, again, referencing back where, like, if New Eridu is the equivalent of Rome or, whatever the major city, they're like, that's why it's made to seem like it's the only bastion of civilization, because to them, like you see, even just in the Outer Rim, they're like, oh, those people burn oil instead of etheric energy. Yeah. Like they are the barbarians in the wasteland, savages. And Rome is the bastion of civilization.
Yeah. So like, I think if we interpret it not as New Eridu as the last bastion, like is the last, like all humanity is here, but it is the last city.
There's also the alternate route of what if New Eridu and this whole, say, continent is quarantined? Say all the other like you have these hollows spring up and they're all stemming from Eridu, and so the port makes sense because they used to have trade, and now they are basically blockaded, locked on this island or this area, and like they've just been abandoned by the rest of the world because
my counterpoint is there's a hollow on the moon.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, man. Next time you look at the moon, it's hollowified as heck.
Oh, well then, okay, maybe they are actually the last bastion.
I think they're the last city, but I think there are still ports, like Outer Ring's a great example, right? Like, I think there are still settlements and things, but in terms of like the last, like,
there's also
the Rome.
Yet another
the Rome
option.
Is a really good comparison. Yeah.
There's another option we're completely overlooking. They just really thought ports are a cool place to have a fight. And they didn't think of the logical implication of having a port in a city that is the only one in existence.
I hope that's not the case. Just because everything else has been so tightly...
It does, yeah. I could see, and I mean, it could even be something as simple as they had the chasm, and so they would port back and forth between Eridu and New Eridu, so now there's no point for port. But Port Elpis doesn't look abandoned like you would expect a port that has been used in 40 years.
And we do see, like, we see shipping... like ships moving around, and like the people there are making a living
shipping
as
ships.
Sailors. They're shipping ships, shipping things, and then we put them together. So we're shipping the shipping ship shipping. But like it could be like delivering things to smaller organizations. It could be. I mean, we don't know a lot about how New Eridu is structured. We don't know if it's like there's giant rivers going through the whole thing, and they're shipping things along rivers instead of the ocean.
I mean, and it could be that they will open up another city, or even it could be even something as simple as just, even if there's not actual cities, like you said, there could be other military bases, research sites.
There's got to be.
There could be any number of reasons that they have a port in the sole surviving city.
They have to write more story.
Eric, don't give them time. We have to judge them on what they've turned in.
What is it right now? You don't get an extension.
They've had 6 months to give us every last bit of lore and scrap.
Yeah, they got it. They're speed running all of the narrative. I think what really is the most important takeaway here is we now must be mere days away from some kind of fishing-based minigame. And that's all I care about. So if that means ships going to nowhere, I'm okay with that. So I can play a fishing minigame.
Yeah, I mean, based on the route that they're going of adding in minigames, a Stardew Valley ZZZ is not out of the question.
I would play the mess out of Stardew Valley. We didn't
Zardu
talk about
Valley.
the Void Hunters. Do you want to talk about Void Hunters?
We can talk about them really quickly because there wasn't really anything to talk about.
Yeah, like it's one of those things. Like I would be remiss not to mention these other things that came up in this lore teaser that we got at the beginning. But it also like a theme for us today has been like, based on what we know so far, what do we think is coming next? When we're introduced to the Void Hunters in that Where the Miracle Began video, the first we meet is Swordmaster, who was a member of the Hoshimi family. And we know who the most current member of the Hoshimi family is. And she's a Void Hunter. And she's very strong. I'm curious, you know how like at the end of the most recent act, she slices through Bringer and like slices a hole in the hollow?
Yeah.
And it was like super cool. So like, because that was her finally actually like harnessing Tailless and not just using her own.
Yeah, her power.
Natural
just her
ability.
own skill.
I wonder, like, because when we first met Miyabi, she struck at Nineveh, and Nineveh wasn't phased.
Yes.
Would Miyabi unleashing Tailless on Nineveh have an effect?
I think that I feel like that is very much a deliberate thing that they showed, where like she wasn't able to take down an overseer by herself, but when she actually comes to, and I mean, it's the typical trope of she has a cursed object that she refuses to embrace, and it's only after she like accepts the curse in a matter of speaking, or is able to overcome it, that she unlocked its potential. So I think there's also the other fact of, they can't have Miyabi just solo Nineveh because we have to solo it. We have to kill it every month or every week.
Thank goodness we don't have to kill it every week anymore. But yeah, like she's got her the mask. Jim Carrey's the mask that she had to learn how to harness.
Yeah.
But it did really inform like how strong these Void Hunters can be. Because like when we see the teaser of Swordmaster, the Exaltist Overseer, I have a feeling Exaltist is going to come back again. I'm just going to put a pin in that for now. That's not the last time we're going to hear that term. Other Void Hunter mentioned was Sunbringer. I'd seen somebody trying to argue that Sunbringer was not the idea of someone so strong they destroyed a hollow in the sky and brought the sun back to the people, but that it was a name. like my name is Sunbringer because we just dealt with a guy named Bringer.
Oh, no, that sounds... I don't like that one.
I know, I don't like it either. It's not as cool as like Sunbringer sounds dope. Their whole thing is, one, they were the CEO of the Marcel Group, which is like, when we did the maze during the most recent event, that was a Marcel maze.
Yeah.
Sunbringer invented Bang Boo. But the thing they said is that she eradicated the Hive Lord Hollow in the sky. And I love this idea of like a flying hollow so big it blotted out the sun.
Well, and there's also another element that they could potentially go of like the Prometheus myth, because she brought technology to people, the light of information, that is obviously with Prometheus bringing them the flame of knowledge. Yeah. So they could go that route too.
Cool. It's a really good name. So I'm again, like all of these are mentioned there in the past, but I'm going to say we, but Brian, you don't have to stamp this. They're going to come back in some way, shape, or form, whether it's like the inheritor of their stuff, like Miyabi was a descendant, or just like the person themselves just shows up again and is either a good thing or part of this organization that we're secretly going up again. They would not have mentioned these technically 7 people if it wasn't going to be important.
Even if they end up just being like recordings, and like maybe Sunbringer's just left back in recordings, and there's a whole story arc where it's like you're following Sunbringer's path through whatever. So there's, but yeah, there's no way that they didn't casually mention these names in the hype video for this game and then just forget them.
Spend a quarter of the video on these people that don't matter.
They gave them all very cool, interesting character designs with cool names and cool lore. They're not going to just relegate them into like, oh, remember when like we talked about them?
So Cool names like, quote, joyous, quote. The quotes are important, and he is the least happy person I've ever seen drawn in any medium.
I immediately thought he was Leiter's like
dad.
grandfather, dad, or something. I'm like,
my dad.
But yeah, Joyous, he's the one who figured out how to go through the hollows. So he's the one that everyone bases the technology of hollow investigation on.
He's the father of both the HIA, but also proxies, right?
Yes. It's kind of like the classic father who has two sons and they go in two different paths.
Exactly. There's a trio of people who we don't know a lot about. There's Colonel Vike, Lieutenant Colonel Dan of the Guard of Staves, and the leader of the Falkenhayn mercenary troop.
They were just having so much fun with this group.
Oh, man. They look cool.
Colonel Dan of the Guard of Staves and the leader of the Falkenhayn mercenary troop. Like, they were just like, let's do it. Let's just...
It's cool. Their thing is that they push the Dark Wall back 37 kilometers, which in American is just shy of 23 miles.
But also, what is the Dark Wall?
What?
I don't really know.
Didn't we get one reference to it recently in game?
Yeah, I was like, presumably
Miyabi, right? Am I misremembering?
I mean, maybe not, but it's one of those.
Email.
I mean, it could very well be like something they referenced, but when you have two references 6 months apart, it's easy for them not to stick in your brain.
Yes, so I feel like it was referenced. I'm not pulling it up right now. If you do remember it, leave us a comment, send us an email. We'll add an addendum. If I do find more about it between now and releasing the episode, I'll just click back in like I did last time and be like, hey, here's what we're going to talk about. No matter what, that's a long distance to do things.
Yeah, and they made it very clear that it was just the three of them who pushed it back. So whether the Dark Wall is the physical edge of Hollow Zero, or if it's a metaphorical, basically swarm of ethereals, or whatever it was, those three people, as the kids say, they stood on business.
My theory right now with the Zero, I'm ignoring stood on business. You can just let that sit. My theory is that like within Hollow Zero, the reason that the siblings have not been able to do what they want to do within Hollow Zero is that like there's normal Hollow, and then inside of it, kind of like a nucleus to a cell is like
it's advanced Hollow.
Exactly. And like the Dark Wall is like impermeable. And so like that's probably slowly expanding, and like that's the true like destructive nuclear like center of Hollow Zero. And if they could like shrink it back down 37 kilometers, that's a big deal. That's my theory.
Now I'm just imagining the three of them literally just brute like forcing, just putting their hand and just literally pushing etheric energy backwards.
If you see the video, like the picture they have attached to the trio, one of them is huge, and maybe could just push the whole thing back in again.
And then, of course, it finishes off with Professor RK, the founder of the Helios Academy, who even before the new the Eridu eruption was lost in Hollow Zero,
never came back out again.
Which I think is interesting because if you hadn't watched that video, you would be under the impression Hollow Zero erupted from nothing on the day of the apocalypse, eruption, whatever they call it. Clearly, it existed in some form before that. So, whether Professor RK is the one who created that, maybe he went in to stop it, but there's something about that. But something I think is interesting is of the 7 Void Hunters.
Yeah.
Phaethon has elements from 3 of them.
Okay.
They're from the Helios Academy.
Yep.
They were master navigators even before Fairy. And they have Eos, a super special Bang Boo that everyone remarks about how remarkable that is. So, whether those are basically like artifacts from knowing these Void Hunters before the day of the eruption, or if it's just a coincidence. But I feel like it though. And then because you notice so they cover 3 of the bases, and then the other 4 bases are just various forms of raw power. Whether
fighting.
It's fighting physically pushing energy back or so. And that's where Phaethon partners with all these other people is
proxy.
They can do everything but the physical labor.
I like.
Is this like another Void Hunter sort of thing where they are carrying the torch for half the Void Hunters and they're collecting more physical people to go out and finish.
Flash forward 5 years to Void Hunter Bell being released and you and I being very hyped for it.
That would be so amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it before we started recording, like, if any of these were just like to show back up again, I feel like it's Professor RK, who'd just be like, walks out of Hollow Zero, or we'd run into him inside Hollow Zero. That's probably what it's going to be, right? Like, we're going to get really deep in Hollow Zero, and we're going to discover this dude. If you haven't seen what this dude looks like in the video, he's got like a flame head.
Yeah, if that's what he actually looks like and not just a representation, like, if before everything happened...
totally normal.
He was just a walking, like... Because they have Thyrans... Yeah. But they've not had elemental Thyrans.
I hope that's just what he looks like, and I hope that is a sign of things to come. Because like he looks like a mixture of Mysterio crossed with Hellrider. Is that the name of him?
I mean, that's the name of a character. If
you know who I'm talking about with the fire head.
Yes, that's Hellrider.
Yeah, okay,
Ghost
cool.
Rider. Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider. Okay, well, let me take a clean cut at that. He looks like a he looks like a combination of like Mysterio and Ghost Rider.
Who's Ghost Rider?
Like he's like Hellrider.
Oh, right.
Like it's the purple shawl, and he doesn't have a face, and it's just like this plume of purplish smoke coming up.
And his little collar looks like, you know, like a medieval torch, or like it looks like a cage.
You could have seen this guy in a Souls game and been like, yeah, I get it. He looks cool. I hope that like not only is he going to show up again at some point, and they saved him for last, so he may be way down the line. But I hope it is also like just kind of a hint at what's to come in terms of like the team going buck wild with character design.
Yeah, my guess is, again, I agree with you. RK shows up towards the end of the overall story, and he's either an ultimate bad guy, maybe not necessarily the ultimate, but like one of them, or he's been in Hollow Zero this whole time, and he's basically like stuck there, force stabilizing it. And they're like, oh, if it wasn't for him, like Hollow Zero would have rapidly gone out of control, and it was like him essentially putting himself in stasis.
Okay.
Like those are the two ways I mostly see it. Like I don't see him showing up and not having had a massive impact on Hollow Zero one way or the other.
Oh, for sure. Last thing I want to say about Professor RK, I just quickly looked up what RK meant. And real quick, apologies if we are not pronouncing these things right. Neither of us are linguists.
Well, to be fair, they call him Professor RK, so we're saying it right.
That's true. We're doing good. In Greek, it means principle, originating source, cause, and basic entity.
Which makes sense for someone who is a founder of an academy.
Yeah. Originating source may be, it'll be interesting. Okay, we went everywhere in different directions, but did we miss anything?
We've missed a lot, and we've also just done a bunch of drive-bys of random topics.
Which is, I assume at this point, is what you would expect from us trying to do a lore episode.
We had such high hopes. It was the lore was laid out in coherent fashion, and then we immediately red string corkboard it.
I had fun with it, at least. If this was at all enjoyable, we would love feedback. I have been really negligent of my podcaster duties for the past couple of episodes. So, quick reminder to everybody before we wrap up. If you've enjoyed what we're doing, please leave a comment, like, subscribe, tell your friends, all of that fun stuff. We can't pay to advertise. And so that kind of action goes a long way. If today worked for you and you liked it, please let us know. Send us an email. You can email us at sixthstreetunderground@gmail.com or leave a comment on our Podbean page or wherever else you get podcasts. If it was completely unintelligible Drek, You could also send us an email.
Or you just send us really angry emojis. We'll get the idea.
Send us an email, but do not use any real words, and we'll try to piece together your criticism. It's been a lot of fun. We've not done it justice, but we really are excited with how the first arc of ZZZ kind of
You mean the first RK? That was bad. Don't laugh.
Don't
or do. You know what? Live your best life.
Please laugh. We're excited to see what comes next. We're in the midst of 1.4 right now, but 1.5 is on the horizon. Is it 1.5? Yeah, it's 1.5 is on the horizon. We've got, we can talk about spoilers now, so we can talk about how like we've met Astra Yao and we've met Evelyn, and like that's gonna kind of help inform what's coming next. I would not be surprised if music plays a huge part, not just in terms of like the next arc, but in terms of like the next chapter, but like in terms of the next arc of like music having something to do with all of the other stuff going on. There's just been enough musical things referenced in the game, and the music itself is just such an important part of the game. I'm excited to see what they do with that next. And one last thing I wanted to do is, if you are interested in lore and you're interested in more deeper dives, there are a couple of people on the internet doing some really cool things. There's a person named Ashikai, Ashiki. This person did not ask us to advertise, but I'm going to mention it anyways because she's done a very good job of collecting lore bits and pieces within ZZZ, and there's not a lot of people doing that right now. So if that's something that you are interested in seeing more about, I recommend pointing you in that direction. Brian, I have now talked until I don't know how to end the episode. I don't know how to end the episode. Say the arcade thing again.
Arcade. Oh wait. No, I know how to. I know how to end the episode. Why don't we just bring it to an end?
Oh no! Thanks, everybody.
Dry butthole.
Bye.